Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Uncivil Law, where as always, we learn through the misfortunes of others. I am your host, Uncivil Law, a licensed attorney in Texas, Virginia, and before the United States Supreme Court, and I hope you're having a great day. We are here with the new lawsuit, the so-called thermonuclear lawsuit, filed by our friend and yours, Elon Musk. Very super exciting, I know. We're all having a great time. And we're going to read this and see what it has to say. Is it the glory? Is it the definitive word? Is it everything that they promise? Is it a thermonuclear lawsuit? Or is it mostly junk? I'm slightly skeptical, I'm not going to lie, but we'll read it and we'll find out together. All right, so first of all, I take note that we filed this lawsuit in Texas, which, so right away, you know, we're going to have a venue fight over this. X, as you note, is registered in Nevada. Their principal headquarters, of course, is in California, and Media Matters is registered and their principal headquarters is in Washington, D.C. And we're in none of those places. So we can look forward to a venue fight right off the bat, right? Why are we suing here as opposed to one of those other places? Now, the reason Elon Musk would like to sue here is because the Fifth Circuit is probably more friendly to him than those other places. But just because they're more friendly doesn't mean that you get to choose that, you know? Especially now, the normal rule, by the way, for intangible harms, in case you're curious, is the normal place for a company, or actually for a person for that matter, is where you live, right? So if you have an intangible harm like defamation, for example, because it's not, you know, a car wreck that's physical, you know, the normal place you sue, if it's like said on the internet in sort of a global way, there's no tie to any particular place, then the place you sue is your home. And for a corporation, your home is either your place of domicile, where you live, or your place of primary residence, which is where your C-suite is located. And again, neither of those places. So the fact that we're in Texas, I take note right away. So we will have a venue fight. So let's see what we got. Defendant Media Matters for America is a self-proclaimed media watchdog that decided it would not let the truth get in the way of the story it wanted to publish about X Corp. Very super exciting. Looking to portray X's social networking platform as being dominated by white nationalist and anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, Media Matters knowingly and maliciously manufactured side-by-side images depicting advertisers post on X Corp's social media platform beside neo-Nazi and white nationalist fringe content. What exactly do we mean by manufactured? I'd like to know. And then portray these manufactured images as if it were typical of what X users experience on the platform. Okay, so is it that it never happens at all? Is it that it just sometimes happens? Did we actually fake it? What is the story? What is the story with that? Is a good question. So we'll deal with that. Media Matter designed both these images and its resulting media strategy to drive advertisers from the platform and destroy X Corp. Exciting. Plaintiff X Corp owns the X social media platform with over 500 million active monthly users. X facilitates free expression and open discourse, and right away you can see some of the problems with this from a philosophical standpoint. Right? Is Twitter merely clamping down on the speech they don't like? How free speech are they? Right? Is it free speech except when we don't approve, or is there something really legally going on here? I am questioning, to be sure. The post appears sequentially to users in a feed, which occasionally include paid advertisements, the overwhelming source of X Corp's revenue. Users shape their own experience on X. Users curate the content on their own feeds by choosing to follow other users, thereby determining what posts are presented to them. Most users are served a variety of content based on an algorithm that takes into account who that user follows and what the user engages with. But X also provides its users the option to forego algorithmically suggested posts together, thereby enabling a viewer to view only the content the user chooses to view. Okay. As with prominent online platforms dedicated to hosting free speech, X and its predecessor Twitter have long been a target of Media Matters. In just the last year, Media Matters has published a series of articles threatening X's relationship with massive multinational advertisers and global publishers, including Amazon, eBay, Major League Baseball, the New York Times, Samsung, Sports Illustrated, the Wall Street Journal, USA Today, Office Depot, Nokia, Dish, Bayer, Tyson Food, Honeywell, Discover, FanDuel, Thermo Fisher, National Women's Soccer League, the Pittsburgh Steelers for some reason, the Atlantic Falcons, Manchester City, DraftKings, FanDuel, T-Mobile, and The Athletic. Fun. This November alone shows Media Matter released over 20 articles and counting, disparaging both X Corp and Elon Musk, a blatant smear campaign. Which, just from Principles 101, they're allowed to not like you. They're not allowed to lie, but they're allowed to not like you. So, okay. For the last several years, Media Matter has falsely portrayed Twitter, now X, as a risky, unsafe platform for advertisers. Contrary to these efforts, 99 of X's measured ad placements in 2023 have appeared adjacent to content, scoring above the Global Alliance for Responsible Media. Well, that last 1% might still be a note of concern. So, yeah. Glad to see you over on Twitch, by the way, Gwen River, or glad to have you there. Glad to see that the bot is, for the moment at least, working. Exciting for me. Undeterred by the truth, Media Matters has operated for new tactics in its campaign to drive advertisers from X. Media Matters has manipulated the algorithms governing the user experience on X to bypass safeguards and create images of X's largest advertisement, paid posts, adjacent to racist, incendiary content, leaving the false impression that these pairings are anything but what they actually are: manufactured, inorganic, and extremely rare. Wait a second, are they manufactured or extremely rare? Those are not the same thing, at least to my mind, right? When you say manufactured, that to my mind means made up, right? That means that they constructed it. Do you mean manufactured that way, or do you mean manufactured in that they went looking for it, which isn't really manufacturing? What do you mean by manufacturing? You keep using that word, and I'm not sure what it means to you. Media Matters execute this plot in multiple steps, as X internal investigations have revealed. First, Media Matters accessed accounts that have been active for at least 30 days, bypassing X's ad filter for new users. Okay. Media Matters then exclusively followed a small subset of users containing entirely of one accounts in one of two categories: those known to produce extreme fringe content and accounts owned by X big name advertisers. Okay. The end result was a feed precision designed by Media Matters for a single purpose: to produce side-by-side ad content placements that could result in a screenshot. So they weren't really manufactured exactly. They didn't fake them. What they did is, at least according to you, is they followed the alt-white people or the alt-right people or whoever that is, the unwelcome group, and then they followed the major platforms, and the algorithm put the two and two together. So I'm not sure that's exactly the same thing, but okay. But this activity was still not enough to create the pairings of advertisements and content that Media Matters aim to produce. Media Matters therefore resorted to endlessly scrolling and refreshing its unrepresentative hand-selected feed, generating between 13 and 15 times more advertisements per hour than the viewer on X, repeating this inauthentic activity until finally receiving pages containing the results it wanted: controversial content that X adds X's largest advertisers. Well, okay. So is this fair? Is this fair for Media Matters? Well, as I think the CEO of YouTube once said, every problem they have is a problem at scale. Because even if it affects 0.001% of the users, that's still millions and millions of users, millions and millions of pages, millions and millions of videos, right? So super rare, ultra rare problems. It's the law of large numbers, right? You multiply a really small number times a really big number, and sometimes you wind up with still a really big number, right? 1 out of a million isn't that small when you're dealing with billions, right? Then you're still talking about thousands of them. So is it fair? Well, there are a lot of users using Twitter, and there are a lot of users with a lot of different combinations of things. So this could be viewed as representing some small subset somewhere, right? Not necessarily the typical experience, but a possible experience. I mean, it is possible, right? They had to refresh the page over and over and over to get the result. But, when you're talking about billions and billions and billions every single day, rare events occur with frequency. So there's a way to sort of tease that out in some sense. So I bring that to your attention. Media Matters omitted mentioning this in a report published on November 16th. Okay, so maybe there's something there, right? If they don't disclose their methodology, right, and they don't say how they went about it, then perhaps it creates a false impression. So now you're talking about something like defamation by implication, right? If you disclose the facts, here's how I went about it. Here's the results I got. This represents bad thing. That's my opinion. Then you're all good. If they're not disclosing how they're doing it, maybe that's some kind of defamation. So, okay, possible something. All right. Nor did Media Matters otherwise provide any context regarding the forced inauthentic nature and extraordinary rarity of the pairings. Okay. However, relying on the specious narrative propagated by Media Matters, the advertisers targeted took these pairings to anything but rare and organic, with all but one of the companies featured in the Media Matters piece withdrawing all ads from X, including Apple, Comcast, NBC Universal, and IBM, some of X's largest advertisers. Indeed, pulling all advertising from X in response to this intentionally deceptive report, X called the pairings an entirely unacceptable situation. Only Oracle did not withdraw its ads. Good for them, I guess. The truth bore no resemblance to Media Matters' narrative. In fact, IBM, Comcast, and Oracle paid paired ads appeared alongside the fringe content cited by Media Matters for only one viewer. I assume they know that for fact? That they know that for the fact because of data somewhere in a database, they know all the pairings that occurred. So hopefully they know that for a fact and they're just saying it. Not a single authentic user of X saw IBM, Comcast, or Oracle next to the content, which Media Matters achieved only through manipulation of X's algorithms as described above. And in Apple cases, only 2 out of more than 500 million active users saw an ad appear alongside the fringe content, at least one of which was Media Matters. So maybe it happened to someone else somewhere sometime. Okay. Media Matters could have produced a fair and accurate account of users' interactions with advertisements on X via basic reporting, following real users, documenting actual organic production of content and advertising pairings. Had it done so, however, it would have not produced the outcome Media Matters desired so desperately, which was to tarnish X's reputation by associating it with racist content. So instead, Media Matters chose to maliciously misrepresent the X experience with the intention of harming X and its business. Okay. We know who the parties are. There's going to be a jurisdiction and venue fight. We'll skip that for the moment. All right, let's look over what Twitter says the facts are. X is a social media platform that remains in operation due to its loyal users and advertisers. X invests heavily in technologies that work in tandem to facilitate safe and effective interactions between users and advertisers. Technology that under normal organic conditions operates seamlessly. Okay. As a first layer of protection for advertisers, X applies default protections to all posts. These protections are designed to protect advertisements from being placed next to content that violates community guidelines. When users operate within X's guidelines, these default mechanisms are effective and have a long history of successfully protecting X's advertisers from undesirable interactions with fringe content. As the second layer of protection, X provides advertisers with opt-ins. These options allow advertisers to further address any specific concerns they may have about their advertisements being seen next to specific content. Here, advertisers can specify which keywords and user handles they don't want the post to appear by. These protections and others create a safe environment for advertisers that allow them to reach their target audience while protecting their brands, as Media Matter well knows. Exciting. On November 16th of 2023, Media Matters published a false, defamatory, and misleading article with the headline, X has been placing ads for Apple, Bravo, IBM, Oracle, and Xfinity next to pro-Nazi content, claiming that X was responsible for the anti-Semitic content being paired with X's advertising. Well, I mean, they kind of were. You kind of manipulated them into it, but they kind of were responsible too. So maybe you're both responsible. The statement was not true, and Media Matters knew it. As explained below and displayed in an internal X review, the title is false in that Media Matters itself, not X, was responsible for the placement. Well, that's not exactly true. I mean, it was your algorithm. It is your system doing it, so that's not quite right. through the willful exploitation of X's user features, a result that's specifically intended to bring about. X, in fact, has many default safeguards that prevent the platform from displaying content in a manner artificially achieved by defendant. Further, in the body of the piece, Media Matters falsely claims that it recently found ads for Apple, Bravo, Oracle, Xfinity, and IBM next to posts that tout Hitler and his Nazi party. Media Matters did not find pairings that X passively allowed on the platform. Media Matters created these pairings in secret to manufacture a harmful perception that X is at best an incompetent content moderator, or even worse, that X was somehow indifferent or even encouraging to Nazi and racist ideology. I don't know how much it would really matter to these companies, to be quite honest, or why it should matter. I mean, not to put too fine a point on it, but like, companies advertise with billboards and radio ads and TV ads and ads in movies and all kinds of ads that are just broadcast in the world. And I'm sure a few neo-Nazis out there drink Coca-Cola and Pepsi. So I'm not sure why it's necessarily bad that, you know, maybe if they drank more Coca-Cola and Pepsi, maybe they'd be less neo-Nazis. Who can say? But, you know, yeah, so I'm not sure that the off person seeing your ad necessarily is something on the company. But then again, I'm not a corporate PR person. So what do I know? On X, users can control their content on their feeds. When users show interest in particular topics, ads will generate relative to those topics. Media Matters exploit these features by creating a secret X account precision design to evade normal safeguards. Manipulate the language is very, what would you say, descriptive. It's very spy hunter. It's very interesting. Manipulating every aspect of the system which posts and advertisements appear. Ultimately creating the side-by-side images of objectionable content and advertisements. X's initial user data tells the story of just how far Media Matters went to manufacture an inorganic user. I prefer manipulate rather than manufacture, but that's just me. And this is going to be a slight bug to me. It's like, I prefer manipulate to manufacture. Okay. Went to manufacture an inorganic user experience strictly aimed at creating an interaction between controversial content and big name advertisers. Thank you, Anne, for the 5 gift memberships. That is extensively appreciated. Thank you very much. Let's see. I also need to get Twitch alerts on here. That'd be good. Let me figure out how to do that. I'll get back to you. Anyways, first, Media Matters sent out to their attempt to evade X's content filters for news users by specifying an account that had been in existence for more than 30 days. Next, Media Matters set its account to follow only 30 users, far less than the average number of accounts followed by a typical user, 219, severely limiting the amount and type of content featured on the feed. All these users were either already known for posting controversial content or were accounts for X advertisers. That is, 100% of the accounts Media Matters followed were either fringe accounts or were accounts for national brands. And all this functioned as an attempt to flood the Media Matters account with content only from national brands and fringe figures, tricking the algorithm into thinking Media Matters wanted to view both hateful content and content from large advertisers. And which, I mean, that's kind of what they asked for, and X did give them what they asked for, so I mean, there's that. Even this did not produce Media Matters' intended narrative. An internal review by X reveals that Media Matters accounts started to alter its scrolling and refreshing activities in an attempt to manipulate inorganic combinations of advertisements and content. Media Matters' excessive scrolling ran refreshing, generating between 13 and 15 times more advertisements per hour than would be seen by a typical user, essentially to force a situation in which a brand ad appeared adjacent to fringe content. Exciting. Eventually, though intentionally evading X's multiple safeguards by curating the content on its feed, and then repeatedly attempting to create pairings of advertisements for major brands with controversial content, Media Matters finally achieved its goal. I have to say, by the way, so far on a scale, I am less than Thermonuclear. This lawsuit is basic at best, and I'm not sure workable. I have my doubts very severely that this is going to make it past a motion to dismiss. Maybe if it stays in Texas. But if this is what Elon Musk thinks thermonuclear looks like, no. You know, this is at best something you picked up at a roadside stand fireworks shop. Yeah. Media matters generate a specific intended result that was not only inorganic, but exceedingly and demonstrably rare, all while taking specific steps to obscure this in its November article. The overall effect on advertisers and users would create a false and misleading perception. These kinds of pairings were common, widespread, and alarming. Media matters hits manipulations through omissions, deceptive image selections, misrepresentations, and secret settings. Media Matters omitted in its entirety the process of manufacturing these ad pairings. It did not include in its article that created user accounts that only followed 30 accounts. The error belonged to fringe figures or major national brands. Neither readers nor advertisements had any way of knowing. The entire feed was orchestrated to generate a remarkably rare combination. Well, it's Media Matters, so there's that. I don't really trust them as an organization. But okay. Media Matters has also admitted in its entirety the excessive scrolling and refreshing, allowing users to believe falsely the report was produced under circumstances that were unorganic and unmanipulated. Okay. Media Matters also admitted it made no attempt to clarify the rarity of these pairings. The representation put forth by Media Matters constitutes 0.0000000909909% of impressions served on the day in question. Most or all these pairings were not seen by literally anyone but Media Matters' own manipulated account, and no authentic user of the platform has been confirmed to see any of these pairings. Media Matters' image choice in its smear also functions to hide the true nature of the report. All images selected contain only the ad and the controversial content, with all other posts absent from view. That is, had readers been able to see the posts above and below the pairings, they would have easily gleaned the highly specific nature of the small number of accounts Media Matters chose to follow. Well, I don't know about that. I'm not sure the average user would pick up on that they know how the Twitter algorithm works and that kind of detail, but all right. Media Matters chose to show every pairing in its article using deceptive technique. I mean, that's a reasonable assumption, but do you know that? Maybe they do, because maybe they looked into their database and they know that, but they haven't pointed that out yet. Tellingly, Media Matters used its X privacy features in order to hide its methodology from its readers. That is, Media Matters set the account to private, blocking anyone from seeing which accounts Media Matters actually followed, thus disallowing anyone from understanding how its feed was manipulated. Indeed, Media Matters at no point included images with any information about the account that was exposed to these images. The cropped nature of the Media Matters deceptive statements leaves its profile picture out of frame. Accordingly, Media Matters created the impression these pairings were organic, accurate, and representative of the typical X experience, which actually demonstrably misled users. I am a little underwhelmed so far. This is not thermonuclear. Dominion's lawsuits against everyone was nuclear. Thermonuclear. Right? I mean, because like I read those lawsuits way back when. We read them on stream when they were brand new. Brand spanking new, right? Way back when Dominion filed its lawsuits against like Fox News and all those people. Like I was like, this better be really good. And it was. It was really good. They went through a lot of detail and I kept reading it and I was like, oh. And then, you know, Fox News settled for like $800 million because they also looked at it and they were like, oh. Yeah. So yeah. This lawsuit is not creating those same senses in me. I'm not looking at this and just being overwhelmed and thinking, man, wow, you know, I just didn't know all those things. This is weak sauce. They set my expectations pretty high. They so far have failed in the quest. After the publication of Media Matters' false smear on November 16, 2023, Advertisers pulled their ads from the site, which, as Media Matters admits, only happened after it reported that X was placed alongside white nationalist and pro-Nazi content. Indeed, in these companies, which all reference anti-Semitic content in their withdrawal from X. Thunder says there's a federal lawsuit in Georgia that exposes Dominion. I'm not aware of that lawsuit, but okay. Good luck. After Media Matters' November articles created a contrived, misleading, and inflammatory image showing an ad for Xfinity next to pro-Nazi posts, its parent company Comcast decided to pull all ads from Comcast entities for X. As the parent company of Bravo and subsidiary of Comcast, NBC Universal pulled all advertising from X. Why did they put all in italics for Comcast and not NBC? That's a good question. The day after the publication from the article, which also featured an Apple ad contrived to be placed next to the fringe content, Apple, one of X's largest clients, pulled all of its ads from its platform. As previously discussed, IBM pulled all ads. Yeah, why do they only have the one in italics? I don't know. Media Matters manipulation was so severe that companies not even featured in the article also pulled ads from X. Well, maybe the companies that pulled their ads pulled them for reasons other than Media Matters report. So now you have a causation problem on top of everything else, right? Lionsgate obviously didn't pull it because they were mentioned in the article. So maybe the other companies didn't pull it because they were mentioned in the article either. So you have a causation problem. Media Matters represents itself as a progressive search, research, and information center. They're pretty far left, dedicated to comprehensively monitoring, analyzing, correcting conservative misinformation in the USA. Yeah, they're definitely a lefty group. Since its launch in 2004, is engaged in an all-out campaign of guerrilla warfare and sabotage on conservative news sources. In this context, X Corp and Elon Musk are critical of Media Matters because X is the most prominent online platform that permits users to share all viewpoints. And X is the most prominent voice on the platform and passionate supporter of freedom of speech. In taking down two forces it already found objectionable, Media Matters has the chance to starve X of ad revenue, and thereby, and now we're into the causes of action. This is a weak ass lawsuit, man. Heavy on rhetoric, light on facts. Heavy on rhetoric, light on facts. If they make it past a motion to dismiss, I'll be amazed. First, they'll fight about venue for a while. This might get transferred to California or DC, and I'll be amazed if it gets past a motion to dismiss. Don't worry, we're not going to be here very long because this thing's wrapping up pretty fast. So if you're worried about missing Rob, don't worry, because we're not going to be here that long. I was hoping there'd be something here. You know, like often, I don't read these things in advance. I want to share my reactions genuinely with you, and my reaction is a lot of. That's my reaction. All right, so first cause of action, interference with contract. No. X alleges and incorporates by reference all the above allegations. At all relevant times, X were aware that plaintiff contracted with various third parties, including but not limited to Apple, NBC, Comcast, Bravo, Apple, and IBM to sell ads. Defendant Media Matters intentionally interfered with contracts. No. What else you got? Business disparagement. No. X Corp realleges and incorporates by reference the above allegations. Defendant Media Matters made statements that disparage the quality of X Corp's product X. Defendant Media Matters made these statements as fact, not opinion. Well, they are factually accurate. They had to manipulate it to be, but it was true. So I mean, you know, okay, you're gonna try to do some sort of defamation by implication, I guess. Defendant Media Matters represent that X had been placing advertisements next to anti-Semitic and racist materials. It represents he found these materials next to the advertisements, which is technically true. As extensive as above, these statements are false. No, I think they're technically correct is the best kind of correct, to be quite honest. Defendant Media Matters intentionally made these statements with clear malice, well aware of their falsity. X Corp suffered monetary loss as a result of these statements. Companies mentioned false and misleading. No. Interference with prospective economic advantage. Get wrecked. X realleges everything. X was engaged in economic relationships that would have resulted in economic benefit to X. X had relationship with advertisers that pulled their spending in light of the article, causality problem, and had every reason to suspect these relationships would continue. No. Ann Rumson says, I know you find it underwhelming, but do you find it humorous? No, I find it more just sad. I find it just more sad rather than humorous. You know, it's just weak and pathetic, and it's dressing up a pig, and it's like I see the dress, but I also see the pig. You know, I'm still not blind, so but thank you for the super chat. It's appreciated. At all relevant times, Media Matters knew of these relationships as described in reporting. Defendant Media Matters engaged in wrongful conduct that disrupted X's economic relationship. Through extensive deception and misrepresentation, Defendant Media Matters caused advertisers to lose faith in X Corp's ability to monitor and curate content, thereby leading them to break off these lucrative relationships and any future continuing relationships. Defendant Media Matters acted with intent to disrupt these relationships. Media Matters continues its expressly declared guerrilla war on media it dislikes and systematic harassing attacks on X. X Corp was harmed as a result of this. Prayer for relief. Actual and consequential damages. No. A preliminary and permanent injunction. Not a chance in this world. Cost of attorneys. On what basis? What is your fee shifting argument? And some other stuff. Yeah, so that is the end of the lawsuit. So I'm completely and totally and absolutely underwhelmed in every possible way. So, yeah. So that's pretty much the end of that stream. As you can see, I changed out the lens on my camera to let in a little bit of a wider shot, because someone thought that my face was too close to the camera, and they thought, you know, that there was a problem and I needed to have a slightly wider look. So, hey, look, we got a wider look. You can see more of the room now. Very exciting in all of its glory. So we're always trying to make things a little better. And as I hope you also saw, we had two videos today. One was on the child who as I put in the title, the 8-month-old who was assassinated by the UK. And one was on one of the people who had been convicted of killing Malcolm X, who was released like quite a while ago, but was only formally exonerated in 2021 and has now sued the FBI for concealing information as part of their COINTEL program. So, yeah. So all that stuff is happening. So I will send you over Rob's way. So be nice. Say hi. Let's see. All right. I will send you over. We're rating Rob. So for the people who are here and visiting me, I hope you appreciate that. We'll produce more content. No stream this Thursday, obviously. Thanksgiving and all. So no Thursday stream. So if you're looking forward to a Thanksgiving stream, probably not going to happen. I've been Uncivil Law. Until later, my friends, I hope all's well. Cheers, my friends, and goodbye.